you're the 3-4 hitter, or you're the Friday Saturday guy. Like, you're expected to perform, but on a national stage and big market teams, with all these fans, like you're expected to perform at a certain level, and you definitely can get inside your head sometimes, and I definitely think taking care of your mentals and taking care of everything you can internally definitely helps block a lot of that external stress. But I do suspect that they will send me like a full hat this year.
Oh yeah,
that'll be on my seat. Because they don't want a repeat from last year.
All right, baseball is not boring, in large part because of great guys and good players and people who just are genuine people. That's what we like. We talk about Joe Kelly being an ambassador to this whole baseball isn't boring thing. It's a genuine person. Another genuine person, Jake Berger, a teammate of Joe. We are meeting for the first time, but thanks so much for jumping on here, Jake. And I know it's a crazy time, but yay baseball.
Yeah, for sure, Rob. Thanks for having me on. Obviously, crazy time. Everything is getting rolling, but happy I could get on.
Well, okay, there's a couple. So what I do want to talk about is sort of the challenges, and I know that you have a foundation to talk about anxiety and mental health, which I think is important. And I do want to talk to you about that, especially with how MLB is approaching it, because I've talked to some agents about maybe some solutions to that, in which you can weigh in on that. But more importantly, we have to talk spring training hats.
This is gonna be my talking point for the next month.
Yeah. So you were not happy with the spring training hats.
No, last year I wasn't. I didn't really know the damage it could do to my head. Being a bald guy, so. I applied sunscreen to my head, thinking that'd be enough. And lo and behold, I mean, you're out there for 5-6 hours a day, in spring training. So, I guess I didn't reapply enough, and ended up with a really cool sunburn on the top of my head that took about half the season to recorrect. I still probably have a little showing back there, but
it's scarred. It's like a tattoo. You have a tattoo in your head.
I know. And I thought I'd have fun with it and post it on social media. I didn't realize it was going to blow up the way it did. Like People Magazine picked it up. Like, it was crazy. I'm like, People Magazine picking it up? Come on. Like, there's no way. And it was funny because my wife actually was the first one to notice it. And like, she was just giving me crap about it all the time. And then I finally posted it. It kind of blew up, and then sure enough, they decided to go with the trucker hat again. But I do suspect that they will send me like a full hat this year.
Oh yeah,
that'll be on my seat. Because they don't want a repeat from last year.
Well, so first of all, like, how do they miss that in the new CBA? I mean, like, what's going on? What's happening?
I mean, that's all I cared about in the CBA, to get better spring training hats.
Yeah, and I don't think you were alone. I think in every spring training site you had these weird sunburns, these weird. It's much, Jake. It's much like the rule changes, much like the pitch clock. There's much like a lot of everything that we have to adapt to. It's a work in progress.
Yeah.
But yeah. So, well, listen, if you are an ambassador for good. And this is another example of that.
Yeah, exactly. It was funny though. Like last year, I played first base one of the games in spring training, and their first base coach for the Rangers came up to me, fellow bald guy, and was like, "Dude, they didn't give you like a full covered hat." And I'm like, I didn't even know that was an option. So I'm like, I'm left in the dark here. So trying to protect the scalps of all my fellow players out there.
So this is part of the preparation. It used to be where guys wore cleats around their backyard to get used to like rocking around spring training. Oh, yeah. Now you have to like, okay, tell you what, do we have the like 120 sunblock? Is that in the boxes?
Yeah, it's packed, ready to go. And I've been wearing a mesh hat every single day to get the so it's not burnt, it's just tan.
See, there you go. That's why you're the best. You prepare. Speaking of preparing, the other very, very important topic is, so I texted Joe and I said, well, I should have said, I was going to say one caller, one listener asked this question, but I'm just going to say it was Joe. And so I texted Joe. I said, taping podcast with Jake Berger today, anything I should ask. So before I give you his response, what do you think it was?
I think he's gonna say something about being my hitting coach for
Yes,
a
yes.
couple
He
weeks.
said, ask him who the White Sox best hitting coach is. No joke. Do tell.
Yeah, so I went on a stretch there where it was like 3 weeks last season where I was just like hitting the cover off the ball. And right before those 3 weeks started, um, Joe and I were just kind of like, just talking, just chatting it up. And he's like, look, like all you have to do to be a really good hitter on basically any pitch is have a bad minor league swing. And I'm like, Joe, like, what's that mean, man? And he's like, no, dude, you just gotta like, you gotta snap the wrist, like just pull off the ball. And so, I'm listening to him, and you know how Joe gets, like he's just going on this long spiel on how this is gonna work and how this is gonna play at the major league level. Um, and that game, I think I hit a home run off of Rich Hill to put us up like 3-2, and he came into the clubhouse and he's like, what did I say? What did I say? And so for 3 weeks, we always chatted about, if I took a good swing in his eyes or a bad swing in his eyes. And typically the good results were a good swing in his eyes and the bad results were bad swings.
Well, so I don't know how to take that, because it could have been like he's just taking credit for everything good that you're doing, or did you actually implement this weird like minor league wrist snapping protocol? I mean,
yeah, I mean, Joe says a lot of things, and for the most part, you're like, dude, what is this guy saying? And then like you take a step back from the conversation, and you're like, you know what? It actually makes a little sense. So I started applying it a little bit, and I think a lot of it had to do with just like he's clearing my head. I was a young guy, like he's just trying to like make it like stress free environment. So he definitely helped me on the mental side of things. But there were a couple pitches during that stretch. I think there was like a hanging breaking ball that I actually like snapped the wrist and hit it a mile. And he pulled the tablet up after the game and just kept replaying it to me and replaying it. So I mean, I guess I did utilize it a little bit, but yeah, it was all good and
by
fun.
the way, what you described of like him seemingly not making sense, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, okay.
I have 70,000 words to prove that.
Exactly.
So, and by the way, the second part, then he sends another text that if that's not good enough, he said, and best pitching coach. So what's that?
Yeah, so he worked with a couple of our younger pitchers. I think they're like Bennett Sousa and Jimmy Lambert, a couple guys on their breaking ball, and even Kendall Graveman for a little bit. And I think he called it like the doorknob. Like you want your breaking ball to be like you're opening up a doorknob aggressively. And I think like when he started talking about that, those three guys went on a really good stretch of good outings, and we're striking guys out with the slider. And same protocol with them. After the game and after they have that outing, he pulls up the tablet and sits right next to him, just keeps replaying it over and over again. He's like, "See, what did I tell you?"
Oh man, there's so many different ways I want to go with this, but we can talk another. Maybe we'll do another podcast out in Arizona with Joe.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah. So and by the way, so in the book, because I'm not around the White Sox. The only avenue I have, I know some of the guys. I know Kopech for a while, but I get to meet Dylan Cease, and I thought that he was like a really interesting. So he's in the book. He has a passage. We have passages from people like Rob Lowe and Mark Hoppus and different people, and about how they fell in love with baseball. And Dylan's one of them. But also then Joe's like, hey, he has a poem. He has a poem, right?
Oh yeah.
He reads the poem like before every start. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
he does? And then he's like, I'm going to ask him to put it in the book. And so he did. And he was nice enough, and it's in the book. And like, holy mackerel, it's really
Oh,
good.
oh, slider
Oh,
slide.
slider
Oh, slider
slide.
slide.
Yeah.
I remember the first time we walked in the clubhouse, and he's like, "Yeah, like, Dylan's like a very like stoic, like kind of dry humor type of guy." And we walk in, he's like, "Yeah, like I was in my shower last night, and I started thinking about this poem, um, and I wrote it down, jotted it down, and he like wouldn't say it for the longest time. We're like, dude, like tell us what the poem is, and then he read it, and then it just like spread like wildfire because like everybody that walked in the clubhouse is like, dude, you got to hear Dylan's "Oh Slider Slide" poem, like you got to hear it, and so like. I'm sure he recited it like 50 times throughout that day,
Did
and
he have
it's
to read it
actually
like
pretty
in?
good.
Yeah, oh, it's really good.
Yeah,
And I encourage, I would, if I had the book here, I'd go page or whatever. But it's did he say it in front of, like, was this in front of the whole team?
it was like at the time it was like six of us in there,
Okay.
in the clubhouse, and it was like before a lot of people got in there, and then Ethan Katz walks by, and so he's got to tell Ethan Katz, and then it was just like every single person that kept coming in, like we're like, Dylan, say it again.
It's good. It's really
Yeah,
good.
I think he got
It's
shirts made with it on
oh,
it as
really?
well. So yeah,
Speaking of shirts, do you have baseballs and boring shirt?
no, I definitely need
What?
to cop one. Yeah,
Wait, what?
yeah,
What's Joe doing with all the shirts I sent him? Like,
that's.
what's
I don't
did
know.
anyone wear them? Like, Kopech said he had one, but
Yeah, I think
like,
COVID. Yeah, I guess I wasn't there to get one. I don't know.
good news. They're in White
Yeah.
Sox colors this year, so it's
Okay. All
yeah.
right.
So you're good waiting it out. Anyway,
Yeah.
anyway. Boy, this has been fun already. But now, so I do want to get into like semi-serious stuff about this. And first of all, can you talk about real quick about the foundation, the organization that you have, website? I want to make sure everyone understands this before we sort of get to the conversation about it. But I just I don't want to misrepresent it. So just please, the floor is yours.
Yeah. So shakeburger30.com. Obviously with the injuries I had and the mental battles I had, I'm very passionate about mental health and just mental health awareness and just kind of breaking that stigma behind it. And so came up with the idea to create this website, and it's going to have like podcasts, a podcast with me talking to athletes that maybe have dealt with something in their past, or professionals, in the world of mental health, and then also kind of have some merchandise on there, some blog posts, just kind of like an avenue. Obviously, I'm not a medical expert, so I don't take credit to do that, but also it's just like stuff that I used in my journey throughout my mental health battle. So it's on Twitter and Instagram as well. It's Jake Burger 30. So yeah, it's exciting stuff.
Yeah, it's good. And I'm gonna offer you an avenue for that podcast after this podcast. Because,
Yeah.
so there you go. We've just become business partners.
Oh yeah.
So but it's one of these things where your story is like really powerful, and anyone just Google it. I mean, it's really powerful, but it makes me like think about like how hard it is to get through when you're a professional baseball player. It's like, oh crap, like, oh, this is great, this is awesome,
Mhm.
whatever. But then you go through the ups and downs, you go through everything that is attached to it, that has nothing to do with the ups and downs of performance. As we sit here right now, heading into the 2023 season, like, can you articulate sort of your perspective of how difficult it is? And I don't want to say difficult to be a professional baseball player, it's still awesome, but how difficult, there's so many avenues to be difficult in this
Mhm.
existence that you would have never known, let's say 5 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. It's it's hard to comprehend at times, and like you said, I mean, first you gotta just be grateful that you're in the position you are, because I mean it really is so cool. And but at the same time, you have to realize we're normal human beings too, and we deal with the same stuff everybody else does, you know. But when you see the lights go on and you're there from 7 to 10:30 at night watching us play, like, you know, you still have to realize that there's still life stuff going on that is behind the scenes. So, you know, it's hard to comprehend at times. I think, you know, anytime there's a major injury that a player has, there's going to be repercussions mentally, regardless. You know, I mean, you see that in any sport. You know, you see guys in the NFL that tear their ACL or Achilles, and it's like, you know, they're not fully back yet, and you know, everybody's calling them a bust and like they're a terrible player, but it's like, no, man, like this guy just had a major surgery 2 years ago. You know, it takes time to get that fully back. So, I mean, obviously you have those pressures, and then also, I mean, you are at the largest stage in the sport, and you're going to have outside pressures from fans, from basically anybody, even family. You know, it's definitely a tough balance because for me personally, you know, I love interacting with fans and, you know, talking to as many people as I can, and, you know, just hearing everybody out, because I want everybody to feel heard and feel seen. And that's a tough balance because, you know, there's definitely 2% of the population out there that, you know, hates you and thinks you're a terrible baseball player, right? So, you know, it's tough because those 2% sometimes ruin it for the other 98%. And I think that's why you see some guys just give the cold shoulders to fans and whatnot. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely a lot of challenges, and then not to mention, you know, if you get drafted in the first, second round, it's like, you know, there's a certain expectation set on you before you even step onto a field in low A in Kannapolis, you know. So that's a whole different pressure. I mean, obviously you have those pressures in college baseball, with, you know, you're the 3-4 hitter, or you're the Friday Saturday guy, like you're expected to perform, but on a national stage and you know, big market teams, with all these fans, like you're expected to perform at a certain level, and you know, you definitely can get inside your head sometimes, and I definitely think taking care of your mentals and taking care of everything you can internally definitely helps block a lot of that external stress.
So you're on social media,
Hmm.
and this is a big part of the conversation, right? This is I think that, guys. I'm First of all, it's great that guys are more open, like yourself, are more open and talking about it. Where 20 years ago, certainly 30 years ago, forget about it, and there was different
Hmm.
pressures, whatever. But now you're added the social media thing,
Yep.
because this is. I remember, Jay, when I remember writing my first book. This was back in 2000. 2000 came out in 2004, and there
Hmm.
wasn't Twitter then, and there were message boards, right?
Yeah.
And so
Oh
message
yeah.
boards. So writers could write all kinds of crap about people, but never get the blowback.
Yep.
Really.
Hmm.
So it was. Then you look at the message boards, and for a while, okay, it's good, and then you start getting like, oh man, what? You're not used to it. And I mean, then the message
Hmm.
board thing becomes a thing. And now obviously Twitter becomes a thing. Now, obviously, every Instagram and everything else. But it is when you're not used to it initially, it's tough to take.
Oh
And
yeah.
right.
Hmm.
And this is honestly like Joe's not even on social media. Like he's
Hmm.
not on, and I think he just got to the point where I just don't want to deal with it. You are
Yeah.
on social media and you are dealing with this stuff. And you also probably have talked to guys about this dynamic of the good and the
Hmm.
bad of it. Talk a little bit, if you can, about, when you're going through all this and dealing with this, you want to take the right perspective, you want to take the right road, but
Hmm.
here's the big roadblock. It's called Twitter.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Twitter can be the best thing or the worst thing. It, like I said, like I love interacting with fans. And something I did this year, I think that I'll continue to do is in season, like I'll delete Twitter, because again, it's not just the bad, like it's also the pros, like and it's also like I go 4 for 4, and like everyone's tweeting at me and hyping me up, like it's hard not to control your emotions and get like excited, and then like you show up to the
Mm-hmm.
park the next day and you go 0 for 4 with 4 punch outs, and it's like those same people are saying negative things. So it's like it's definitely like a wave ride. So for me, like in season, I'll kind of delete it. I'll still have an Instagram and stuff, but out of season is kind of when I can interact with fans again and feel okay. Because it really isn't, like I said, it's not just the bad stuff; it's the good stuff too. That can get inside your own head. It's definitely tough to navigate. It's I definitely think like the message board mentality obviously carried over to Twitter. And I think the prevalence of like sports betting has just inflamed like the situation of like posting negative thoughts and
Yeah,
like,
because
DMing.
they personally got impacted because they lost money on you.
Exactly. And so I think that definitely has added to the prevalence of messages like that. And yeah, it's definitely tough to navigate, and it's tough because my my sister and wife get messages too. It's like what do they have? They had no part of the performance out there. So that's always tough to see. And I think a lot of guys just get fed up with it because they are like getting personally attacked, their wives and families and whatnot. So I think it's definitely the right call, like in season, to kind of
Mm,
shy away from Twitter. But
it is. Yeah,
those
I'm not
4 months,
sure.
like you can build a brand on the field without having the social media, and then like in the off season, kind of can cultivate that brand a little more.
Yeah, so as you're saying this, I'm thinking about walking in a clubhouse, and you can see some guys handle the whole Twitter thing better than others. Some guys
Mhm.
probably, it's not their fault. I mean, it's just, maybe they just become obsessed with it. And
Yeah,
you walk in a clubhouse and it's literally like guys sitting at their locker, and maybe it's Instagram, maybe it's Twitter, I don't know what, but it's like a row of guys.
just scrolling.
And they go, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, so do you feel like this is the challenge? Guys, the game ends, guys go in, and there probably are guys who go right to like, what
To
is the
Twitter,
reaction?
Instagram.
Right.
Yeah. Mhm.
That's not healthy.
No, that's terrible. That's thing you check is like Twitter, Instagram. It's the same type of like thing. I feel like. I just play chess on my phone. Like
Oh, you
that's
do?
all I do. Yeah.
Oh, we just had a great chess podcast. With who?
Who?
Come on. Like who's the guy this off season with
Who?
all the chess stuff? Joey
I don't.
Votto.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Joey Votto came on with Garrett Whitlock,
Mm-hmm.
of the Red Sox, who was a big chess player. And I just stepped back and let them geek it out on chess.
Oh
Now I
yeah,
know you play chess.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh
I
man.
play so much.
Do you really?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
give you Votto. I mean this it was first of all, I'm gonna send you the podcast, but it was it was funny because do you know Votto at all?
No. Mm-mm.
Okay, neither did
Never
I.
heard of. Yeah.
But he has a very dry sense of humor. And so I'm like, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and I'm going to relate baseball and chess. And he's like, no, no, like baseball's checkers. It's not chess.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. And then he goes on, and you just have to sort of, but it's funny. Like that's good to know because I feel like Adam Ottavino's a big chess guy. Is there other big
Mhm.
chess guys in the White Sox or?
Vinny Velasquez was getting into it, and then anywhere we go, me and Daryl Boston, we'll play a match if there's a chess set in the clubhouse.
Okay.
Um, yeah, it's always a good matchup between me and him. But yeah, I love it. But yeah, back to the social media thing.
No,
Like
but that's the
yeah,
point. That's the point. Is that it's challenging. The baseball season's so all encompassing, but it's challenging to have the discipline to find something that's just not the easy avenue of running to your phone,
yeah,
right?
hmm yeah.
So
That's no for sure. And like I think like finding an escape. Like you see a lot of guys like read books, because they just don't look at their phone. Like I really do think if you can find something that takes you away from social media, and it can be on your phone, like it could be a game or whatever it may be, but it's definitely toxic to just kind of hop on Twitter and see what people are saying about the team and about you.
so let me ask you this. So I had mentioned earlier on the podcast that I had talked to other guys about the MLB's approach. And I had an agent say to me, listen, MLB they have to do a better job of, they have the team help, but they
Mhm.
have to offer more than that. And I don't know, and you can agree with that or not agree with it, but you have a unique perspective of it. Do you think that more can be done in the industry that you're in?
Yeah, and, part of me, like, it's not really MLB or the team's fault. I think if you are dealing with something, you're less apt to share it with a current, like, employee of the entity you're working for, in a sense, right? Like, if I'm dealing with, troubles at home, or if I'm dealing with, depression or insomnia, like, you're less apt to share that with, a team employee. So, and they definitely do offer, some third party choices. It's hard to manage for sure, because they do give avenues to talk about it. I just am not a big proponent of it. Like, for me, like, sharing it with my family and sharing it with my wife and sharing it with my friends about what I'm dealing with help me. I know a lot of people go out to outside, therapists or whatnot, and that helps them. So, I don't know if there is anything like that they're not providing. It's just kind of a weird thing, with the team, and you even though they're medical professionals, like, you're still worried they're going to say something,
Yeah.
right? Like, that's just not, like, you just have that trust issue at times. So, that's always definitely a tough challenge.
Have you had, because you've been open, have you had players or teammates or even other players like come to say, hey, listen, like, I'm glad, just to ask you about sort of that dynamic?
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I've had a few teammates and a few players just around the league that have talked to me about it, and what they're dealing with, and kind of what I did. Like, a really good example, that we had. Who was it? What's his name in Atlanta that tore his Achilles twice?
Oh, uh,
Why am I?
I don't know.
I talk to him like once a month.
I want to say Ronald Cunha, but
No, what's his pitcher? Canadian guy.
uh,
I could see his face.
this is where I edit in and I say, hold on.
Yeah. Oh my
Anyway.
god. Let me hold on.
Atlanta,
I
Atlanta.
literally talked to him. Mike Soroka. There we go.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Mike Soroka.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There
Yeah.
you go.
For us, like, we were the only two that had tore our Achilles and then retore it within the rehab process, and there was like an instant connection. So we always like bounce ideas. He didn't come to me obviously about mental health stuff, but like about what I was doing at this time in my rehab stage and whatnot. And so, like, that's what's really cool about baseball in general, and it being such a small world. Like, you're gonna have instant connections, and people feel open talking to each other. So, I've definitely had a lot of teammates, and a lot of just players within the baseball world that have come to me and talked about, maybe something they had been dealing with, or one of their family members is dealing with, and just kind of have a discussion about, mental health. And I think a lot of people are on board with, there's definitely a stigma around it, and athletes can't
Mm,
deal with this stuff, and so I think there's a lot of people, starting to opening up about their, battles for sure.
that's so true. I mean, it's so to get past that sort of like that perception and the stigma. Well, you've been very generous with your time. Do you feel better physically and mentally than you ever have, like heading into this spring training?
Yeah, yeah. This is
And,
like,
and this isn't the typical Jake. Are you in the best
yeah,
shape of your life
best shape of
question?
your life.
Because
It's the
Because
best in spring
here's a
training.
spoiler alert: 90% of the players going to spring training will be in the best shape of their lives, and
Yeah,
40% of that will be true. Anyway, but
exactly.
I'm asking you because you seem like an honest person.
Those are the best. I love those
Oh, the best.
media clips.
Oh,
Yeah, it's the
the
best.
best shape of the,
You know.
yeah. So I remember I did a story once of going around asking guys, "Are you in the best shape of your life?" And I think that I think somebody said I've never been in the best shape of my life. I think they were Ryan Brazier. The guy named Sam Travis was like,
Yeah.
I'm a machine. Like Steve Pierce, like who was clearly like not in the best shape of his life. He's like,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, I will be in a couple months or something like that.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, so what's been really cool is we had our firstborn in November. Um, and like being a parent and being a father, I think changes your perspective on a lot of things. And kind of how you can prioritize what's important, what's not, right? And so I definitely think like mentally and physically, I'm in the best spot I possibly can be, and have been in a while. And it really does date back to my injuries. I don't like, you see like such a negative thing that affects your life, and in the long term, it was the best thing possibly for me because it definitely got me back on the right track and gave me that perspective on where I need to be at. And I think us having our firstborn just keeps pushing me into that right direction. And that's been really cool to experience that and be with him for his first 3 months of life. And it gives me a whole new perspective going into spring training because I'm not just playing for myself, I'm playing for my family now, and playing for him. So that definitely puts me in a good spot.
There you go. I'm ready. When you get that T-shirt, man, let me just tell you, physically, you're gonna feel better than ever. Makes the
Oh yeah,
triceps pop.
yeah,
So,
I love that.
and now you have the experience and the grit and the guile to know that you should wear something under your hat. So
Yeah,
we've
just
solved
no, just no mesh hats,
no mesh
please.
hats. We've solved a lot of problems today, Jake. But thank you so much. It's so good talking with you, man.
Yeah, thank you.